-11. It is incredibly cold. I want to welcome on into the program Congressman Mark Green joining us. And Congressman, I'm assuming you're in Washington, D.C., and I'm assuming it's kind of cold there as well?
Yeah, Dan, we got a lot of snow on the ground, and it's pretty chilly.
It is chilly, and I got to tell you that what a great time to sit back and pay attention to what you have going on tomorrow with the impeachment hearing for Alejandro Mayorkas that is going to continue. And one of the things that I find fascinating is some of the witnesses that you're going to bring on, because Tammy Nobles is a woman whose 20-year-old daughter, Kayla. The suspect in Kayla's death was an illegal alien, suspected to be an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. Now, you and I both know, Congressman, because we've been talking about this for years, that the MS-13 gang members that have been coming in across the border pose a threat to Americans. So I think that her testimony is going to be crucial in the picture that you're trying to paint about bad guys coming across the southern border.
Yeah, we've taken the approach, both in that initial investigation that was 5 phases, that one of the key points here is that every American is at risk. And this, Ms. Nobles is an example of this. Her 20-year-old daughter, Kayla, was raped and murdered by a minor. An unadmissible alien minor, but the ones that basically Biden is putting into this program, MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. And it's a tragedy the idea of losing a child is probably the most stressful, the hardest thing to ever deal with as a parent. But this young girl was just basically, her life was ended. And it's tragic. And the point here is that this can happen to any American with the current border policies that this administration is employing, which are in violation of the laws passed by Congress, total disregard of the constitutional powers granted to each of the separate branches of government. And it's that that willful disregard for the Constitution and for the powers of the Congress as a co-equal branch of government that is causing us to push for the impeachment.
Alejandro Mayorkas, of course, he for a long time said that the border was secure. And even just the other day, Congressman Mark Green, the president refused to say that what is going on the southern border is a crisis. Can I ask, because I truly don't understand this, and you're a lot smarter than I am, why are they running from the word crisis?
Well, to admit that it's a crisis is one step closer to admitting that it's your fault. So Mayorkas has insisted that his policies at the border have had no significant different impact than the policies of previous administrations. And that's just blatantly false. And it's blatantly false to say this isn't a crisis. I mean, I think it was Jay Johnson, Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security, who said 1,000 a day was a crisis. We've had as high as 14,000 a day, and the average has never gone below 3,000 under this president. So it's been a crisis from day one, a crisis of their making. Both the president's rhetoric during the election, but Mayorkas' policies as soon as he got the job of Secretary of Homeland Security.
Well, and mayors that are Democrat, Eric Adams in New York, you've got the mayor of Chicago. The governor for the state of Illinois was on TV just the other day. I played the audio begging Texas Governor Greg Abbott not to send any more migrants his way. And so
if I can jump in here,
yep.
The shipping of migrants from Texas by the state of Texas is only 6% of what is getting shipped across the country. The Department of Homeland Security has several $100 million that it spends of U.S. taxpayer money to ship people all over the country. So when Eric Adams decries Texas, it's really 94% Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas that are shipping these people to New York and Chicago.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the other thing that I would throw in there is they're also just coming and going to those sanctuary cities and sanctuary states because of the benefits. I mean, in Illinois, I went through this yesterday. In Illinois, they have a lot of benefits that they give to the migrants, including they're giving them illegal aliens. They're giving them driver's licenses. That's been in the news in the last couple of days. Talk also about Congressman Mark Green joining us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Cochise County Sheriff Mark, is it Donnells, a 40-year veteran of law enforcement, and this guy has been really in the thick of things as it relates to the battle against illegal immigration. Talk about not only him, but also, the Border Patrol agents that you'll also no doubt be interviewing in the sessions ahead.
Yeah, so the law enforcement guys are just getting hammered. They're having to execute. And actually, sheriffs in Tennessee, I speak to them all the time about this. They send me images, Eddie Ferris over in Cookeville, and my sheriff, John Fuson in, Montgomery County. Those guys are sending me images of what's impacting Tennessee. But this guy, Mark Dannels, he's actually the head of the Western States Sheriff's Association. So he can speak on behalf of all of these sheriffs that are in Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, the states that are bearing the brunt of this. And he has testified before us before. He's an excellent witness, and he will share even further the impact not only on law enforcement but local communities. And he is a very, very good witness. So we're excited to have him back. I
think one of the parts of this that drives me crazy, and I do fact check, whether it's Karine Jean-Pierre or Joe Biden or Alejandro Mayorkas, they always like to say, well, if Congress would just give me the money. And, you and I well know that the Republicans in the House of Representatives have passed immigration reform and very good reforms at that out of the House of Representatives, and it's sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk.
Yeah, so we passed a very good bill, H.R. 2, that would, if executed, absolutely shut down the southern border, because it's about the incentives that you mentioned earlier, previously about, Chicago giving all these, various incentives to the people. And it's the incentive of just getting released at the border that is the ultimate incentive, and not, the disincentive is being detained. But, we passed a great bill. It went over to the Senate. It sat on Chuck Schumer's desk. Nothing's been done. Now we're trying to leverage to get border security, these supplemental bills that President Biden wants, Ukraine and Israel money. Look, we want to take care of Israel. Republicans want to support Israel. We have supported the president's actions there, and his own party is not, because it's, the anti-Semites are all Democrats. But look, he very much wants those things, and so we're leveraging to try to get some border security, because the number one national security threat to the United States of America is our southern border. And it came out very clearly when I had the FBI director in front of the committee, and he shared very clearly that with an open border, we're at risk for bad guys coming across that border. Even going so far as to say that his agents were out there working to try to catch people who are already in the country, and that his agents were at risk, and he feared for his agents.
I got to ask, I know that this is infuriating for you, Congressman Mark Green, joining us on the Super Talk 99.7 Newsmaker Hotline. And Alejandro Mayorkas, it seems like he just refuses to come in and talk to you folks.
Yeah, we asked him in August. We asked him again in September as a part of this investigation. Now that it has turned into an impeachment process, we sent another letter. He's very passive aggressive. I mean, if you watch his testimony, He is probably, I've never seen a witness so capable at not answering a question and filibustering. But he's basically doing that in these, he'll come back and say, I can't make that date. And what's really interesting, his last excuse was for the testimony tomorrow. We asked him to come tomorrow. He said, I can't make that date because I'm actually entertaining Mexican officials. So the man is actually choosing Mexico over Americans.
Wow.
He's choosing Mexican officials over the co-equal branch of government that has demanded that he come before it. And this guy's total disregard to the Constitution of the United States disqualifies him from being the Secretary of Homeland Security, and that's why, again, we're in this impeachment process.
So do you have any predictions as to where this whole thing will end up? I mean, do you think you'll actually be able to impeach him? That's number one. And number two, what if he just refuses to go?
Well, if he doesn't come, we're going to proceed on. We're going to continue our hearings, and we'll mark up at some point articles of impeachment and send those to the House floor. Now, you asked for a prediction. Look, I think we had 8 Republicans who voted against. Basically, it was a procedural motion to move it to my committee, but they voted against it. And the fear is, that those 8 would be no's on an impeachment. And I've talked to all of them, and I think we've got 2 that are probably going to be harder to convince, but 6 of them are pretty convincible. And I think with what we'll finish laying out here at the end of the month or end of February, we'll get those. So it comes down to 2. The problem is that we've got Steve Scalise, has cancer, and he's doing stem cell. He's out right now. We've got a Kentucky congressman who was in a car wreck, Republican Hal Rogers, who's actually the rank. He's the dean, the longest serving member of the House of Representatives, and he's in the hospital after this car wreck. Of course, we're praying for him. But losing those 2 with our already thin margin is going to make this a challenge. And what we may have to do is try to hold it until Steve comes back and Hal comes back for the vote on the floor. But because we got to have as many yes votes as we possibly can. I'd say it's close, but I'm optimistic.
All right. Thank you very much. So much to talk about, so little time. Congressman Mark Green joining us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.